Hello and welcome to a new series on the channel, Star Trek Voyager Across the Unknown. So we're going to start a new game on this. We're just going to do it on the standard difficulty setting. I have played this a little bit beforehand, just to get used to it. Gonna be honest, none of my previous runs have ended well, so we will see how this goes.
A few days back, this Captain Janeway breezes into my cozy penal colony like she owns the place. She's stern and smells like coffee and regulations. And the kicker? She's served with my old man on the Albatani. Turns out her security chief, Tuvok, was playing spy on a Maquis ship that vanished in the Badlands. Now Janeway needs that missing ship found, and because of my past associations, I'm apparently the resident expert on the Badlands. I find the missing Maquis. She puts in a good word for me at my next parole review. Simple. Still, the view is infinitely better than a holding cell. It's not every day you get a front row seat on a brand new Intrepid-class starship's maiden voyage. The USS Voyager. Might even get to touch the helm.
So, as you can see, we're effectively following the story of Voyager loosely. The only elements of this that are sort of voice acted seem to be sort of bits and pieces from either Paris or Tuvok. None of the people generally are voice acted, so I mean it's a really good game. There's a lot of things to manage within it. The combat is a little bit basic, but we'll get to that in the sort of first little tutorials as we go through them. So I think at the moment we're just gonna follow the story as we track a Maquis ship into the Badlands and see how we get on. I'll try and leave all of the sort of cutscenes in, any of the voiceovers in there as well. But effectively, what we're going to have to do is explore the sectors, complete sort of different challenges, skill checks, if you were, and then manage our ship, build our ship out, effectively manage sort of the power to performance element of it. We don't need sort of the great thing about this is we don't need to follow the choices that happen in the show. The only one, well, I say the only one we may do. We're gonna see the choices as they come. The only one that I will definitely do as the series did was, we are gonna make sure we continue this series, because if I tried to roll and got home on the first sort of skill check with the caretaker, that would be a very short series. I might do a standalone video at some point of that, just sort of so people could see how it goes. So we are now in the Delta Quadrant. Our ship is extremely badly damaged. So this is where we need to start building up our ship and effectively balancing the resources that we have at our disposal. The main one that will, well, I say the main one, the main few that will be key to this is morale. We need to make sure that we're at positive morale, we're not losing too much morale, because if we effectively lose too much morale, it's game over. And we also need to make sure that we've got enough fuel. So they're the two big ones to monitor and to manage initially. There are other materials that you need for upgrades, building, but we'll come to those as we get there. I think we've been brought into the caretaker array. And this is where we get each each system, each sector that we go into, we get to effectively explore. So we can scan the planets. We can see what resources those planets will contain. Any resources that we need, we can head to them. But again, we need to keep in mind that as we're traveling around the system, we are using up fuel. So we need to make sure we're balancing that level of fuel with getting the resources we need from each of the systems. As we've just arrived here, we have no fuel whatsoever. So the main thing is we need to get some deuterium. And each of these sort of, to gather resources, you have different sort of skill checks for them. You can either fail, completely succeed, partially. It's more, you know, complete success, complete failure, and then you have sort of like partials in between. And that depends on sort of the technology, the unlocks you've got in your ship. So at the moment, I don't have really anything working on my ship, so I've got the very much the most basic of options. And you'd have seen by the bar in front of it, you know, the green and the yellow. The yellow isn't necessarily imminent failure, but it's not as good as you'll get a diminished amount of resources. You could get crew injured if it hits in the yellow. So it's more like success with a negative, whereas green is generally success. Dark green is sort of critical success. Certainly for the system checks, anyway. And as we're going through this first bit, we'll get all the tutorials for the different resources that we need. So the deuterium is generally the fuel that we need. The geranium will effectively allow us to build the very basic of items within our ship. You then have tritanium, which allows you to build slightly more upgraded elements, or less basic. And then when we get further into this, as you can see on the resources, we should get food resources as well. So at the moment, we're gonna start repairing some of our ship systems. We need to get the transporters online. We also need to get some of our crew quarters back online and clear some of the decks. Now, at the moment, we don't have life support on all of the decks that we've got, so we can only build and have usable buildings in the decks that we have life support available. So that's going to be the first port of call. However, we will need to upgrade our warp core because we don't have the most amount of power, so we can't support everything. So here I can either go for a lower amount of resources for a guaranteed success, or I can sort of gamble a 50-50, get a higher amount of resources, but potentially get a negative. Just based on previous times I've played some of this, I'm probably going to go for a bit more of the safe option where I can. Okay, so we're going into our first away mission. This is where each skill member has their own expertise in different areas. So Tom Paris has got medical, engineering, and command, whereas Harry Kim's got engineering and science. Each away mission will require different, or has different checks on them. You can see them down the left hand side. And each crew member has a different amount of a number assigned to, each expertise, and as they level up, they'll get more in them. And so away missions are effectively you're effectively trying to roll a check. So for the top one, we need 29 command, but we've got, Tom's got 25, or we need 33 science and Harry's got 29. So at that point we're slightly lower, so there is a chance that we can fail it. So if you've got less than the target, you'll have a roll, and and anything that you roll, you know, outside of that will be a failure. But if you've got more, then you can effectively make it an instant success, or get a critical success. And again, those critical successes will get you more resources. So I think for this one, we're probably not going to do the command one. That's way too much of a difference. Harry's already been used, so each time you use a crew member, they'll get fatigued for the next round. You can still use them, but the fatigue state means that their stats are slightly lower when you go and do the rolls. So we got a success on that one. So now for our next one, Tom's going to be fatigued. And again, you can select multiple people within the away team to sort of combine their numbers to get a better chance of success. So I think, as you can see, Tom's fatigued, so we're not going to be able to do that top command one. The middle science one's probably a little bit out of our league as well, but if we combine them, we'll be able to do the bottom engineering one. We didn't quite get a crit, which is unfortunate. But using both of our away team, we are going to have both of them as fatigued, which is not ideal, but we did get 150 deuterium for that. And this is where it's one of those choices where we can make a choice that I don't know how much this changes the story, but it will change the immediate elements of it. So we've got a success on waking B'Elanna up, so that's what we're gonna do. We get some more deuterium as well, which very much need that. That will become a constant struggle at some point, so I'm gonna need to make sure that we're either gonna need to find a way to create it, or we're gonna need to make sure that we've got a nice constant supply of it. So, we've completed the initial away mission. So we've got Harry back on the bridge, but we don't have Tom Paris. However, we did manage to successfully rescue B'Elanna, so therefore she is now back on her ship. So just like in the show, this first little sort of mission chain, or the tutorial train, outside of I don't believe B'Elanna was the one that got woken up, but this does follow, the first sort of couple of episodes fairly well, to be honest. I mean, some of these little story beats, even though they're not sort of fully voiced, you do get a bit of an idea on sort of how the different crew members will interact, or how they can interact. I'm sure that will change down the line, depending on, how well they work together. So this is going to be, we need to create an engineering office so that we can start sending out repair teams. Effectively, repair teams are the way, they're your builders within the ship. So the repair teams will be the people that can remove the rubble, clear space to allow you to build things. They'll also be the ones that build the rooms. They're also the ones that, if you need to repair the ship's hull, they will be the ones to do it. You get different amount of repair teams per level of, well, I say per level. You get different amount of repair team per engineering office. So you can either go down the route of upgrading the engineering office to have more crews, or you build more engineering offices, but that of course takes more space in the ship. And space is finite. We only have as much space as we can have. So it's going to be that balance of, do I upgrade and potentially spend some of those higher tier resources when I get the ability, or do I just create the very basic room and sort of not hope for the best, but hope I don't need the space sort of here later. But thankfully those are problems and those are decisions for the future. We don't need to worry about those right now. So this is the tutorial about the morale bar. Effectively, morale can change based on decisions, what the crew is eating, whether the crew has quarters to sleep in. It can there can be just events that change how much morale you get within a system. So morale is very important. I think the last time I played this, I did have some morale-based issues, and the crew may have mutinied on me. So we're going to try and make sure that does not happen this time. So I think initially what we're going to do is probably try and get as many people into beds as we can. And again, the tutorial is going to want us to create the mess hall, because at the moment everyone's on emergency rations. Nobody likes emergency rations, so morale's going to be lower because of that. But this is also where we get to start sort of designing our Voyager, what we want to put in it, what we need. And it's going to be that balance. So at the moment, we just want to get ourselves repaired. We want to get as much... We just want to make ourselves as stable as possible whilst we were still in a bit of a state. So within the mess hall at the moment, we haven't unlocked the ability to use food as normal, or use normal food, so everything's going to be replicated. And any replicated food, certainly premium rations that we're currently using at the moment, all of that needs energy. So effectively that comes out of our deuterium stores. So, the longer we're on premium rations, the more deuterium we're going to effectively burn running the ship, which means our fuel consumption's just going to go up. Which is fine for short bursts, fine for making sure that, our morale doesn't absolutely tank. But it's not going to be something we're going to want to keep hold of for an extended length of time. So as you can see here from the morale board, our biggest morale sort of downside is coming from, we've got 50 crew without quarters, so that's going to reduce our maximum morale. But we are going to be gaining some morale per cycle, because we're using the premium rations, but that isn't going to be enough to counteract the fact that we've got crew without quarters. Crew without quarters kind of does a twofold. It's a twofold negative. It will reduce the maximum amount of morale that you can have, and it also reduces the morale tick per cycle as well. So we're going to want to create a load of crew quarters, and at the moment all we've got access to are emergency quarters. They're the smallest size room. They house the most crew, but they do have a negative morale on them anyway. But it's what we have. The negative morale will be better than the negative morale for not having crew quartered or crew housed. So we're going to start building some of those and get the ship cleared out. So at the moment we're still trying to find what's happening to the missing members of our crew and the Marquis crew. So we're speaking to the caretaker, who's the one that's taken them. And this is one of the great things about this. You don't need to be, you don't need to be a fan of Star Trek. You don't need to have watched Voyager in order to sort of, make these decisions. Yes, spoilers if you've seen Voyager, then yes, elements of that will happen in this, and it will, give you a little bit of insight into it if your memory's better than mine and you can remember all this stuff. But you don't need to. A lot of it is just like dealing with the strategy and how you want to play each of the encounters and each of the sort of skill checks. As you can see for this, we've got different roles that we can have, because our technology, the rooms we have in our ship are fairly basic, so we don't have the best amount of options available to us, and certainly none of them are going to be high rolls for it. But as we move forward, we'll get different technologies, and that will change. So at the moment, the caretaker's not willing to help us sort of diplomatically, so we're going to have to find a different way in. So this is where we start exploring more of the sector, more of the systems within that sector as well. Now, this first tutorial sector, I probably spend more time in it than I probably should do. But as you can see, effectively the sector, because this is very much I wouldn't say a roguelike game, but effectively, you're pushing as far as you can towards Earth. And each sector is kind of like a different level. There's a different overarching storyline for each sector. This one is the caretaker array, and within each sector there are different systems, and you'll have to move between the two. So this is really where managing fuel is really critical to this, because you'll be moving between sort of sectors within the system. So at the moment we're just going to see what we can build. We don't really have a huge amount of options. We have a lot of geranium, so we can build plenty of stuff. We do have a free work team, so what we'll probably want to do is either repair something or get more space to build. Now, whenever you clear the rubble from a ruined room, you do get a small amount of resources from that. It's normally, geranium that you get. So I think at the moment I need to start really sort of getting something repaired or building something, because otherwise I'm gonna end up just losing some resources. I mean, it's not a huge amount, and in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really cost much. I'm not losing a huge amount. But it's all about seeing what we've got damaged, and what decks we've got to use. So I think at the moment we'll repair the workshop. We've got the ruined room, so we can get some more crew quarters going. So yeah, the management of the ship and how you build it, just because each room has different sort of sizes, is very much part of the balance towards this. Now at the moment we don't really have the technology to upgrade anything, so we're just using the basic rooms. But when we get more, you know, we'll want to move probably away from some of the emergency crew quarters, because again, we don't want that morale hit. But the other crew quarters are, they take up an extra slot, so they're 3 slots rather than 2, and they house less crew. But again, you do not get a negative morale for it, so it's finding the balance towards that. We're always going to have some emergency crew quarters, certainly to start with. So we've got the workshop created. We've got the torpedo room, the phaser room, and the shield room that we need to repair. We don't have the resources because we don't have the titanium for the EVA shuttle bay. So the actual main shuttle bay probably, they're going to be a focus. I'm going to want them repaired, because the main shuttle bay gives you access to use shuttles for, you know, gathering resources, those checks within the system. It'll give you the option to use a shuttle bay shuttle for it. But again, you're also gambling that you could lose that shuttle and need to create a new one. Because the one thing this game really gives you a sense of, which, you know, TV shows are TV shows, it's all of your resources are finite. You know, when you see the combat tutorial, there will be a number against the amount of photon torpedoes you have, and until you can create more, that's the lot. You don't have any more. So it will be a balance of, okay, I'm going to need to have more torpedoes, I'm going to need to figure out how to make them. Where do we go from here? So we've made it to the planet that we need to be, so we're gonna start this mission. So we've followed the energy pulses, we've made it to a new planet. We probably want to do some scanning of the planet before we send an away team down to see whether we're going to get any... Well, we want to try and avoid as many surprises as we can. So we might as well do both scans, they are optional. So we're gonna send an away team down. And this is where we meet Neelix. So within this, we will sort of get new people joining the crew. We will, you know, potentially lose crew. From, you know, from my sort of previous play on this, no one seems to be immune to death. I have lost members of the bridge crew on a previous playthrough, so we're going to try to keep as many of them alive, especially those that are useful to us, because we need by the looks of it, we're going to need a good, well, we are going to need a good combination of crew skills for away missions. Plus, we're going to need a good combination of ship ability, or crew skills for enhancing our ship as well. So we've got Neelix on board. We need to rebuild and explore the system, or we can just skip sectors. We're not going to skip cycles. We're not going to skip cycles. Really not worth it in this. There's plenty of things that we can be doing, especially given that we've got two decks at the moment, two upper decks that we need to clear out and get stuff built. And there's plenty of resources on the board for us to collect as well. So one thing I do need to keep in mind is each one of these rooms that I repair will have a power cost to keep them running. Now at the moment my warp core is only a level 1. So as we've got here, we've got a dark green and an orange. So that means if we went for that, we'd probably get a lot more resources, but the dark orange means there's something probably bad is going to happen. Again, we're just going to play it safe. And now we'll see what Neelix has to say. Okay, so Neelix is going to tell us about a Kazon encampment that we're going to hopefully be able to find some details of our missing crew members. So it looks like we're going to have to do an away team. We will probably need to take Neelix with us. But again, we can ask for details on the Kazon Ogla. Because again, if we pick up different crew members on our travels, they may have different information, different skill sets that we can then use in order to further our goals. Okay, let's see what he has to say. Water is a precious commodity. So recommending we potentially trade some water for information. So we can replicate water, so water's not a big deal. We've now repaired the science lab. We're going to pick up some more deuterium on the way anyway. So again, we may as well just start. I think we've got all of our... We've got the phasers up, we've got the shields up. We don't have the torpedo bay yet. But in theory, we shouldn't need the torpedo bay just yet. So let's start just making sure that we've got enough free space in order to make enough crew quarters. As you can see, we're now at 26, so we've got less of a max morale hit. We've also got a much less of a morale hit per cycle because of it. We do have an additional morale hit for having emergency quarters, but that's not as big of a hit. So we're going to grab that. We did lose some because we are full on storage, which we'll need to sort that one out once we've got the ability. So we could build a cargo bay and get some more deuterium storage, which I think would probably be the best route for it. Because at the moment we can only have 1,000, whereas this will put us up to 1,500, which will give us a little bit more leeway. We are going to probably need to get plenty of cargo bays, or at least upgrade the cargo bays. So Neelix is auto-populated, he has to come on this away mission. So as you can see, Neelix has got diplomacy and engineering. We're going to need some security and command as the missing, and some science. So we'll bring Tuva because he's got a lot of security. But then do we take B'Elanna or do we bring Harry? B'Elanna's got better engineering, less science, so given the fact that we've only got one science check, probably worth taking B'Elanna. The other thing that's interesting with this is you can be locked out or, you know, improved by different traits each crew member has. This is going to be a struggle. Oh, we failed that one. Hopefully that one doesn't hurt us too bad, failing that. So, you see, B'Elanna's got the innovator trait. So, again, that opens us up to that top option with engineering, which we might as well go for because it is a guaranteed success. 38 for 38. Does also give us a little bit of geranium as well, which is nice. Anything bonus that we can get out of this is always welcome. So now we get to decide how we approach. We're going to use Neelix for the diplomatic approach. This will give us a good amount of morale as well. So anything we can get where we boost our morale. Again, we're going to need to try and keep our morale high because that is going to drop. So this is where I think we need any of our resources that we know we're going to need constantly. We're going to need to try and make sure that we've got plenty of it. So we can hit this one with just B'Elanna, which is good. We didn't crit it, unfortunately. So at the moment we're describing our technology to them. Tell them we can give them plenty of water. Now we're getting told about additional risks surrounding some of these options. I mean, these are all one risk decisions. It's probably not that bad, but we do have the top diplomacy one, which will get us some morale. Plus, it's a guaranteed success, so it kind of mitigates that risk. I know very much like the old Telltale games, it comes up as like decisions have consequences. I think there'll probably any further interaction with people, it'll probably change those, but I'm not sure how consequential they are in the grand scheme of things. But that is something that, you know, we'll have to find out as we go. So we have rescued Kess, although there was a bit of deception in there that we didn't know Neelix was his aim. Although if you've seen the series, you would. This is where I say you don't need to have seen the series and remember everything. But if you do, you know, there are certain nods to it, and you probably can tell roughly what's going to happen, as providing you haven't changed things considerably. Certainly in the first few episodes, I doubt there's going to be enough leeway for us to change a lot of things in order to sort of go too far off the standard path for it. So I think as now we've rescued Kes, I think we'll do a few of the other little admin tasks that we've got to do. This episode is getting, we're past the 40-minute mark, so I think I'll try and keep these episodes, I say short, around the sort of between 40 minutes and an hour. We'll try and keep them. So we'll get the little admin tasks to do, and then we'll in the next episode we'll go back to the array and see how we go. So we've got to take them to sickbay. And this is where we meet the doctor. So the doctor's going to have to take care of sickbay. He's going to have to examine Kes, because we've just rescued her from the planet. Then I think we've got a few other little bits to repair before we head back to continue our mission with the caretaker. So we've got to do the transport signal enhancer from the research, from the science lab. It's not a research, it's just a research task. We're still in the middle of building a cargo bay and clearing out the ruined room. I think if we can get the rest of this deck sorted out, we can probably get another couple of crew quarters in there. We've got two nice 2 slots up there, so we can get crew quarters in there. So we've got 2 spaces for emergency quarters in sort of deck 2. That's going to then be... We're then going to have to start thinking about where we place them, because at the moment I don't really have anything that I can build a 1 square room. So yeah, the science lab, we can do research. We do have plenty of science at the moment, so we could set our research going. We've got 21 cycles before we run out of fuel if we just sat static, which we're not going to do. So this is where we can go into the tech tree and see what we want to get. Now, the interesting thing with the tech tree that I found in this game is there's a lot of question marks on there until you either get the event for it or you find it on your travels. So now, as part of the mission, we need to create signal amplifiers from the workshop. That's going to take us some resources. Take us 3 cycles to do. We've got that space organised. So let's see what research we've got access to. So we've got crew, we've got science, we've got combat, we've got Borg, but we haven't encountered the Borg yet. So plasma torch from engineering. That will give us 25% more resources for clearing rooms. That's probably useful to get fairly soon. High morale bonuses increased. Again, we don't really have high morale bonuses at the moment. Increase XP from away missions is probably good to get fairly early. Increase morale after winning a combat. Again, that might be useful. So a lot of these early ones look to be sort of setting you up for getting more resources for the next phase. So we're going to go for gain XP on away mission. Away mission's a success for the heroes. If we want to get to higher tiers, so cargo bay level 2 will give us another 25% on top. We're gonna need to unlock tier 2 and also then the resources to actually do the research. So most of the research just costs science points, but it looks like to unlock different tiers you also need dilithium. I mean, we do have some dilithium at the moment, but we are probably going to need that, and we haven't found a source of it. So we've got some research we want to aim for. We definitely need more cargo bay storage, or at least to have the ability to upgrade our cargo bay storage. But I think at the moment we don't have the technology for crew quarters. But that, again, if you look at that, that costs more power to run, and we don't really have power at the moment. Again, a lot of this stuff we don't have the technology for. I mean, we've got plenty of crew free because these rooms also require crew. So again, if you don't have the right amount of crew to work in the rooms, you won't be able to sort of make them active. They'll sort of be inactive. So we'll get the torpedo launchers repaired. That's the last of the repairs outside both shuttle bays, which is good. So we've got the cargo bay built. We can select the cargo bay to which resource we want the increase on. So we can do that to deuterium. So we can now hold 1500 deuterium, which is good, but we're only got half full. You might as well start getting some of these ruined rooms sorted out with our other engineering team. I mean, these two on deck 2 will be perfect for just adding in some emergency quarters. So I think we've got, after that one, 3 more that we can get hold of, and then we're going to have to start thinking about upgrading or repairing some of the life supports on the other desks that we've got. So we've got the signal amplifiers done. So I think it's now time that we went back to the planet to then try and rescue Tom and Chakotay. We're just going to have a look through our sort of dashboards for power. We've only got level 1 power, so we don't have a huge amount of power to play with, really. But I think starting the missions off, we're in a good spot. I think we just need to keep repairing, keep getting as many resources as we can, and seeing where the journey takes us. So with that, I will stop talking now. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe. Add a comment if you like what you're seeing, or you want to see, more. And thank you all for watching, and hope everyone has a good day.